providential care. Jacob's journey to Egypt marked the beginning of a new chapter for his descendants as they grew from a family into the nation of Israel, fulfilling God's promise to Abraham. The family of Israel, Jacob and his sons, settled in Egypt, bringing with them all their households, flocks, and possessions. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, all the tribes of Israel, entered Egypt together, totaling 70 souls, including Joseph and his 2 sons, who were already in Egypt. They flourished in their new home, growing in number and strength. As time passed, Joseph, his brothers, and all that generation passed away. Yet the children of Israel were fruitful, multiplying abundantly and filling the land. Their numbers became a source of fear for the Egyptians. A new pharaoh who did not know Joseph or the favor he had brought to Egypt rose to power. Viewing the Israelites as a threat, Pharaoh declared, "Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply further, and, in times of war, join our enemies and rise against us." With this decree, Pharaoh enslaved the Israelites. Taskmasters were set over them, forcing them to labor in brick and mortar, building the treasure cities of Pithom and Ramses. The Egyptians afflicted them with relentless burdens, and the Israelites' lives became bitter with hard bondage. Yet, the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and grew. Pharaoh's frustration turned to cruelty as he ordered the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, to kill all newborn Hebrew boys. The midwives, however, feared God and defied the king's command, allowing the boys to live. When Pharaoh confronted them, they replied, "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." God honored their courage, blessing them and continuing to increase the Israelites' numbers. But Pharaoh's resolve hardened. He commanded his people, "Every son born to the Hebrews must be cast into the Nile, but let the daughters live." In this dark time, a child of hope was born. A man from the house of Levi took a Levite woman as his wife, and she bore a son. Seeing that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she crafted a basket of bulrushes, coating it with pitch and slime to make it watertight. Placing the child inside, she set the basket among the reeds along the Nile's edge. The child's sister stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen. Pharaoh's daughter, bathing in the Nile, noticed the basket and sent her maid to retrieve it. When she opened it, the baby's cries moved her heart. "This is one of the Hebrews' children," she said with compassion. The child's sister approached and asked, "Shall I fetch a nurse from the Hebrew women to care for the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter agreed, and the girl brought the baby's own mother. "Take this child and nurse him for me, and I will pay you," said Pharaoh's daughter. The mother cared for her son until he grew older, then brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own. She named him Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, but he never forgot his Hebrew roots. One day, he saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew slave. Consumed with anger, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid his body in the sand. The next day, he intervened in a quarrel between 2 Hebrews. "Why are you striking your companion?" he asked. The aggressor retorted, "Who made you a prince and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Realizing his actions were known, Moses fled Egypt, seeking refuge in the land of Midian. In Midian, Moses rested by a well, where he encountered the 7 daughters of Reuel, the priest of Midian. When shepherds tried to drive the women away, Moses defended them and watered their flock. Grateful, the women brought Moses to their father. "An Egyptian delivered us from the shepherds," they said. Reuel welcomed Moses, offering him hospitality, and later giving him his daughter Zipporah in marriage. Moses named their son Gershom, saying, "I have been a stranger in a strange land." Years passed, and the Israelites' suffering in Egypt deepened. Their cries of despair rose to God, who remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God looked upon the children of Israel with compassion, setting the stage for their deliverance. Moses, once a prince of Egypt and now a humble shepherd, tended the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, in the wilderness. He led the sheep far into the desert, arriving at the mountain of God, Mount Horeb. The landscape was desolate, with rugged rocks and silent sand stretching in every direction. As Moses watched over the flock, his eyes caught a strange sight: a bush ablaze with fire, yet not consumed by the flames. Curiosity stirred within him. "I will turn aside to see this great sight," he said to himself. "Why the bush is not burned." As Moses approached, a voice called out from the midst of the fire, "Moses, Moses." Startled, Moses replied, "Here I am." "Do not come any closer," the voice commanded. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." The voice continued, full of power and reverence. "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Trembling with awe and fear, Moses hid his face, for he dared not look upon God. "I have surely seen the affliction of my people in Egypt," God declared. "I have heard their cries because of their taskmasters. I know their sorrows, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them to a land flowing with milk and honey, the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." Moses, overwhelmed, stammered, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" "Certainly I will be with you," God assured him, "and this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." Still hesitant, Moses asked, "When I come to the children of Israel and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" God replied with words that echoed through eternity, "I am that I am. Tell them, I am has sent me to you. Say to the children of Israel, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations." God then instructed Moses to gather the elders of Israel and tell them of his plan. "I have surely visited you and seen what is done to you in Egypt. I will bring you out of affliction into a land flowing with milk and honey. The elders will heed your voice, and together you shall go to Pharaoh and say, 'The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Now let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to sacrifice to the Lord our God.' But Pharaoh will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders, and after that, he will let you go. When you leave, you will not go empty. The women shall ask their neighbors for silver, gold, and clothing, and you shall plunder the Egyptians." Moses, still reluctant, protested, "But they will not believe me or listen to my voice. They will say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.'" God asked, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," Moses replied. "Cast it on the ground," God commanded. Moses obeyed, and the staff became a serpent, slithering before him. Moses recoiled in fear. "Take it by the tail," God said. When Moses grasped it, the serpent became a staff again. "With this sign," God explained, "they will believe that the Lord has appeared to you." God gave Moses further signs. His hand turned leprous and then restored, and water from the Nile transformed into blood. "If they do not believe the first sign," God said, "they will believe the latter." Yet Moses hesitated again. "O my Lord, I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech and tongue." "Who has made man's mouth?" God replied, his voice filled with both patience and power. "Go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what to say." But Moses pleaded, "Please send someone else." The Lord's anger burned, yet he provided for Moses' hesitation. "Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? He speaks well. He is already coming to meet you, and he will rejoice to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will be with your mouth and his mouth, and I will teach you both what to do." Taking his staff, now called the rod of God, Moses returned to Jethro and said, "Let me go back to my people in Egypt to see if they are still alive." Jethro replied, "Go in peace." With his wife and sons, Moses set out for Egypt, carrying the weight of God's command. Along the way, the Lord reminded him, "When you return to Egypt, perform all the wonders I have put in your hand. Tell Pharaoh, 'Thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. Let my son go that he may serve me. If you refuse, I will slay your firstborn son.'" Moses' journey was marked by both fear and faith, but he was not alone. Aaron met him on the mountain of God, and together they returned to Egypt. When they spoke to the elders of Israel, showing the signs God had given them, the people believed. Overcome with hope, they bowed their heads in worship, grateful that God had heard their cries and was preparing to deliver them. Moses and Aaron soon stood before Pharaoh in the splendor of his court, their hearts resolute despite the enormity of the task before them. "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel," Moses declared, "Let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh's gaze was unyielding, his words cutting through the air. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go." Pharaoh's response was swift and brutal. Not only did he deny the request, but he also increased the Israelites' suffering, decreeing that they would gather their own straw for making bricks while maintaining the same production quota. The cries of the oppressed echoed through the land, and the people turned against Moses, their hope fading into despair. Moses, burdened by the weight of his mission, turned to God. "Why have you sent me? Ever since I spoke to Pharaoh, he has brought only more trouble upon your people." But the Lord answered with unwavering assurance, Now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh. With a mighty hand he will let my people go, and with a strong hand he will drive them out of his land." The Lord began to reveal his power through signs and wonders. When Aaron cast down his staff before Pharaoh, it became a serpent. Although Pharaoh's magicians performed a similar feat, Aaron's serpent swallowed theirs. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. Then the Lord unleashed a series of plagues upon Egypt, each more devastating than the last. First, the waters of the Nile turned to blood, the lifeblood of Egypt, now a source of death. Fish perished, and a foul stench filled the land, yet Pharaoh's magicians mimicked the miracle, and Pharaoh's heart did not soften. Next came the plague of frogs, swarming over every home and field. Then lice rose from the dust of the earth, afflicting man and beast alike. Even Pharaoh's magicians admitted, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh refused to yield. The plagues escalated in intensity. Flies swarmed over Egypt, sparing only the land of Goshen where the Israelites dwelled. Disease struck the livestock, followed by painful boils upon the Egyptians and their animals. Hail rained down from the heavens, mingled with fire, destroying crops and livestock. Locusts consumed what the hail had spared, leaving Egypt desolate. Darkness, thick and oppressive, covered the land for 3 days, yet light remained in the homes of the Israelites. Pharaoh's resolve wavered with each plague, but his heart hardened anew when the disasters ceased. Finally, the Lord declared one last judgment: the death of the firstborn. The Lord instructed Moses to prepare the Israelites for their deliverance. Each household was to sacrifice a spotless lamb, marking their doorposts with its blood. "When I see the blood," the Lord promised, "I will pass over you and no plague shall destroy you." That night the angel of death swept through Egypt, striking down the firstborn in every household, from Pharaoh's palace to the humblest servant's home. A great cry arose in the land, and Pharaoh, broken and defeated, summoned Moses and Aaron. "Go," he said, his voice heavy with grief. "Take your people and leave. Take your flocks and herds and bless me also." The Israelites departed hastily, their unleavened bread carried in dough troughs. They left Egypt with the wealth of the land, the Egyptians urging them to go. A pillar of cloud led them by day, and a pillar of fire by night, guiding them toward freedom. But Pharaoh's regret turned to fury, and he mustered his chariots to pursue them. The Israelites, trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, cried out in fear. "Were there no graves in Egypt that you brought us here to die?" they accused Moses. Moses stood firm, lifting his staff as God had commanded. "Fear not," he declared. "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." At his command, the sea parted, forming walls of water on either side, and the Israelites crossed on dry ground. The Egyptian army pursued, but as the last Israelite stepped onto the far shore, Moses stretched out his hand once more, and the waters thundered back, consuming Pharaoh's chariots and soldiers. The Egyptian army pursued, but as the last Israelite stepped onto the far shore, Moses stretched out his hand once more, and the waters thundered back, consuming Pharaoh's chariots and soldiers. The sea's mighty roar echoed across the desert, silencing the cries of Egypt's warriors. Awe and relief swept through the Israelites as they stood on the shore, gazing at the vast expanse of water that now separated them from their oppressors. Then a song rose, a song of triumph, of freedom, of praise to the God who had delivered them. Moses led the people in a hymn of victory. "I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. The voices of the Israelites swelled together, proclaiming the might of their deliverer. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders? As the echoes of the song carried through the wilderness, Miriam, the prophetess and sister of Moses, took up a tambourine. Leading the women, she danced, and their voices joined the chorus. Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. The celebration lingered in their hearts as they turned to face the wilderness. Their journey to freedom had begun, but the path ahead was fraught with trials. Days passed, and the heat of the desert bore down on them. The elation of deliverance gave way to murmurs of discontent as water became scarce. At Marah they found only bitter water, and the people grumbled against Moses. But the Lord, ever faithful, instructed Moses to throw a piece of wood into the water, and it became sweet. As they pressed on, their hunger grew, and the people cried out again. The Lord responded with a promise. In the evening, quail descended upon the camp, and in the morning, a mysterious bread-like substance covered the ground. "What is it?" they asked one another, and Moses told them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat." They called it manna, and it sustained them day by day. God commanded them to gather only what they needed, and on the sixth day to gather enough for the Sabbath. Some disobeyed, hoarding more than was necessary, but it spoiled overnight, save for the portion prepared for the Sabbath. Through manna and quail, God provided for his people, showing his care even in the barren wilderness. When they came to Rephidim and found no water, their complaints turned into accusations. "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" they cried. Moses, desperate, called out to the Lord, who directed him to strike the rock at Horeb. Water gushed forth, a life-giving stream in the desolate land. At last, the Israelites reached the mountain of God, Mount Sinai. Thunder rolled, and lightning flashed as the mountain was enshrouded in a dense cloud. The sound of a trumpet grew louder and louder, and the people trembled. Moses ascended to meet God, and there, amidst the fire and smoke, the Lord declared his covenant. The 10 Commandments were given, inscribed on stone tablets. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother." Each command resounded with divine authority, setting forth the laws that would guide Israel as God's chosen people. But as Moses remained on the mountain for 40 days and nights, the people grew restless. They approached Aaron and demanded, "Make us gods who shall go before us." Aaron, yielding to their pressure, fashioned a golden calf from their jewelry. The people proclaimed, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt." Their revelry reached Moses' ears as he descended the mountain, carrying the tablets of the covenant. When he saw the calf and their idolatry, his anger burned hot, and he threw down the tablets, shattering them at the foot of the mountain. Moses confronted Aaron, who feebly protested, "You know the people, they are set on evil." But Moses took decisive action, grinding the calf into powder and scattering it on the water, making the people drink it. He interceded for them before the Lord, pleading for mercy, and the Lord relented. Though a plague struck the camp as a consequence of their sin, The journey continued, marked by moments of rebellion and redemption, trial and triumph. As the years passed and the promised land drew near, Moses knew his time was coming to an end. On the plains of Moab, he gathered the people and spoke words of encouragement. "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you." Then he turned to Joshua, his appointed successor, commissioning him to lead the Israelites into the land of promise. "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged." As the sun set on the wilderness journey, Moses ascended Mount Nebo, overlooking the promised land. The Lord showed him the vast expanse stretching before him, the land promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, flowing with milk and honey. Though Moses would not enter it, his heart swelled with peace, knowing the covenant would be fulfilled. With his task complete, Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in the land of Moab, and God himself buried him. The people mourned for him, their leader and prophet, but their journey was not over. Joshua, son of Nun, now stood as the appointed leader of Israel. The Lord spoke to him, saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moses. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." With unwavering resolve, Joshua commanded the officers of the people, "Prepare provisions for yourselves, for in 3 days you will cross the Jordan to take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess." Bearing the mantle of Moses, Joshua stood at the edge of the Jordan River, the first great barrier between the Israelites and the Promised Land. The waters surged and roared ahead, an unyielding torrent. Yet Joshua's voice was steady, filled with authority. "Prepare yourselves. In 3 days, we will cross." His command carried the weight of unshakable resolve, instilling courage in the hearts of the people. As the camp stirred with preparation, the priests stepped forward, bearing the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred symbol of God's presence among his people. With reverent steps, they approached the edge of the Jordan. As their feet touched the rushing waters, an awe-inspiring miracle unfolded. The river halted, its currents piling up in a great heap far upstream. Before them lay a dry path, carved by the hand of God. "Go!" Joshua shouted, and the Israelites crossed, their hearts filled with wonder and hope, their eyes fixed on the land that awaited them on the other side. The first great challenge rose before them soon after. Jericho, its massive walls towering high and seemingly impenetrable. Fear gripped some, but the Lord spoke to Joshua with unwavering certainty. "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and mighty men of valor." The strategy was unlike any they had imagined. "Surround the city with all your warriors," God commanded. "March around it once a day for 6 days, and on the 7th day, circle it 7 times. Then the priests shall blow the trumpets, and the people shall give a mighty shout." Each morning the Israelites arose and marched in silence, their footsteps ringing out against the hard ground, the Ark of the Covenant at the center of their procession. The inhabitants of Jericho watched from atop the walls, first with curiosity, then with derision, hurling jeers and insults. Yet the Israelites remained silent, their obedience a testament to their trust in God. tension mounted with each passing day, the air heavy with anticipation. At last, the seventh day arrived. As the priests blew their trumpets, the people shouted with all their might. The sound reverberated through the air, and in an instant, Jericho's walls began to tremble. With a thunderous crash, they collapsed inward, leaving the city exposed. With victorious cries, the Israelites surged forward, taking Jericho just as God had commanded, sparing nothing except Rahab and her family, who had sheltered the spies. The conquest of the Promised Land continued with unrelenting determination. Each victory, though hard-fought, bore the mark of divine intervention. At Gibeon, a coalition of kings rose against Israel, threatening to halt their progress. Joshua led his warriors on a daring nighttime march, catching the enemy by surprise. The battle raged fiercely, but as the sun began to set, Joshua raised his voice to the heavens. "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Aijalon." And the Lord answered his plea. The sun halted, and the moon stood still. The day prolonged until Israel's enemies were utterly defeated. Never before had such a thing happened, where the Lord heeded the voice of a man. The campaign stretched on, city by city, kingdom by kingdom. The city of Hazor, the mightiest of the northern strongholds, rose as a formidable opponent. But Joshua, emboldened by God's command, led the Israelites to victory. "Burn the city," he commanded, ensuring that Hazor would never again rise as a threat. After years of warfare, the land finally found rest. The tribes of Israel received their inheritance, the promise to their ancestors fulfilled. Joshua, now aged but undaunted, gathered the people at Shechem for a solemn assembly. Standing before them, he recounted all that the Lord had done for them, from the covenant with Abraham to their deliverance from Egypt and their victories in Canaan. Then, with a voice filled with authority and passion, he proclaimed, "Choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." The people responded with one voice, "We will serve the Lord, for he is our God." They renewed their covenant, pledging their loyalty to the one who had brought them into the land of promise. Under Joshua's leadership, the Israelites took possession of the promised land, fulfilling the promises of God. Yet after Joshua's death, Israel faced a new reality. Without a leader to guide them, they fell into cycles of rebellion and repentance. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they saw fit. Forgetting God's commands, they turned to the idols of the surrounding nations. In their distress, they cried out to the Lord, and he, ever merciful, raised up judges to deliver them from their enemies. But the people's hearts wavered, and their longing for a king grew louder. "We want to be like the other nations," they pleaded with the prophet Samuel. "Give us a king to rule over us and lead us into battle." God granted their request, and Saul was chosen as Israel's first king. At first, Saul led with courage, uniting the tribes and securing victories against their enemies. But over time, pride and disobedience began to mar his reign. He strayed from the commands of the Lord, acting on his own wisdom rather than seeking divine guidance. On one fateful occasion, Saul presumed to offer sacrifices meant only for the prophet Samuel. As the flames rose from the altar, Samuel arrived and rebuked him sharply. "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God. Now your kingdom will not endure." The words echoed heavily, signaling the end of Saul's favor with God and the beginning of a new chapter in Israel's history.